Welcome back. Well, today we are talking about Norway, and we're talking about JW.org, their lawsuit against Norway. For now, it's increased to 50 million of their money, NOK, Norway's money. And when I look at this stuff, and we did an article a while ago, and I'll clip it at the end, or I'll post it at the end so you can look at the playlist on Norway. But we've talked about this. And just the other day, the lawsuit was at 35 million, but now they've increased it to 50 million, and it hit the headlines. So I started doing some research on this, and I was wondering, where do they get this stuff from, where they can get money out of the governments? I didn't know religions or governments paid religions. Did you? How does that all work? I thought they just got benefits like tax-free land and things like that, and no taxes on the contributions. I thought that's where the governments were losing money with religions, but I was wrong. Now, I did a little bit of research on this, and I live in Canada, so a lot of the research comes up is for Canada. Now, it says here that I plugged in how much does the Canadian government spend on religion. It says here the governments in Canada provided subsidies up to 2.6 billion. 2.6 billion for the advancement of religion in 2017. And I did a Google search on this, and 53%, over half of the Canadians are atheist. But yet, the Canadian government spent 2.6 billion for the advancement of religion. And this was in 2017. This was before the virus. And then the further I do research on this, I found out that during the virus, they could apply for money. And the government was giving them all kinds of money in the Bethels for all the workers, money to keep people out of kingdom halls and do their Zoom. There was all kinds of money after 2017 during the virus. And the list just went on. And through the research, I found, when I wanted to know how much is each religion getting, you can't get that information. The religions are not transparent. So they take, and they don't show us as a common person their bank accounts and what they're doing with the money. What we do know here from the research is the Globe's accompanying story represents an overall picture of the Catholic Church finances in Canada, and Charity Intelligence identified 3,446 Catholic organizations which received a combined 886 million in donations in 2019. So that's just talking about the donations. I couldn't really find out what they're getting and what they're doing with it. Now, the further I dug, I asked what's going on in Canada here. Well, it comes up that Jehovah's Witnesses fund their activities such as publishing, constructing and operating facilities, evangelism, and disaster relief via donations. And then it starts coming up with some Charity Canada stuff. Let's see what it says here. Do religions pay taxes in Canada? It says no. In general, they do not. How are churches funded in Canada? Donations, membership fees, for the most part. Now, I had some information from Charity Canada, and they said that they're not transparent. They have $30 million, Jehovah's Witnesses, that goes out, but they don't know for what. So they're marked as an X because they're not transparent. So when I start looking on, I just plugged this in. Here it is. Watchtower is a 0-star charity with a low demonstrated impact. This is Charity Canada. And the charity does not have a website and reports very little about its $30 million in programs. And this is from Canada. So we're a very small picture compared to Watchtower Worldwide. But they're hiding their money. and but their hands are out wanting money from the governments. So when I looked at this headline today about Norway, what's going on in Norway, and they have their hands out and they're after $50 million of Norway's money, it makes you start to wonder. Now, what's interesting is when I do this search, what comes up is all kinds of stuff. Like, can Jehovah's Witnesses be friends with non-Jehovah's Witnesses? No. Like, this is just popping up. How many Jehovah's Witnesses get disfellowshipped yearly? It just comes up on Google, an estimated 70,000. Like, the internet is very interested right now on Jehovah's Witnesses. They're in the headlines all over. So the first thing I like to do is let's go to JW.org. Let's see what they say about Norway. Okay, here we are. We just plugged it into the internet. There's the picture of the Oslo District Court building. That's what they show when you plug in Norway. Comes up, Norway News. And this is old news, January 11th. This is what they're telling their people. Let's pull this in a little closer for you. So what they're telling their people is on December 30th, 2022, the Oslo District Court granted our brother's request for a temporary injunction to suspend the government's attempt to deregister Jehovah's Witnesses as a religious community in Norway. And this became necessary because the county governor of Oslo and Viking announced her decision to revoke our national registration. And the injunction allows us to keep our registration until the matter is further considered by the court. The Ministry of Children and Families is challenging our injunction. So this is what they're showing their people, that the Norwegian court is granted them a request to suspend the deregistration. So it's looking to me from reading this that Jehovah's Witnesses they've been granted this request to stop this deregistration. So this is all kind of over, and I guess now they're saying, well, our thumbnail says that they're after 50 million, but it doesn't say anything on their website about that. This is all it talks about. And it makes them look like they're going to get this whole thing. It's going to be passed. If I was a Jehovah's Witnesses and this is all I read, I would think that we're probably in good favor. Things are happening there, and we're going to get this all resolved. That's what I would think as a Jehovah's Witness. Well, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, so I can go a little further. So I went a little further, but I was a Jehovah's Witness, but I'm not. So I can go further. I can look outside of the watchtower, and I can really see what's happening in Norway. And when we look just a little bit further, this is the headline that comes up. Jehovah's Witnesses extend the lawsuit. Well, I had no idea that there was a lawsuit. Jehovah's Witnesses aren't saying they're suing Norway. That kind of changes it. But here it says Jehovah's Witnesses, they're extending the lawsuit. So we ran in one of our previous videos that they previously sued them for $35 million. And here it says they believe they are entitled to more than $50 million from the state. Now, in case you're wondering how much really is 50 million NOK, we go over here. It's about 4.6 million US. So it says, well, here it says 50 million krones equals 4.68468. Gives the exact amount. So there you go, about 4.6 million. So it's a chunk of money, 4.6 million, and they're going for more. What's going on here? This is what I would want to know. So let's take a closer look at this, and we'll read through it. It says the state grants, when Jehovah's Witnesses faced the state in the court in January, a significantly higher sum of money is at stake than previously announced. And this is where I go back to saying that I believe that all the religions, like here in Canada, are getting so much a seat for these conventions and for the religious, like there's a lot of money that gets funneled out to organized religion. And it's no wonder that they want to stay a charity, because as soon as they're not a charity, they're no longer tax-free. Their donations could be taxed. Everything could be taxed. But Norway's just saying, we're just canceling you as a charity. I don't know. It sounds like they just can't marry. Didn't really talk about the taxes. We didn't get into that yet. But I'm sure there's going to be consequences if you're not a charity religion. So here it's reporting on this. It says, action. The state administrator in Oslo and Viken recently decided to deny the religious community grants for this year and last year as well. Vartland wrote last week, now Jehovah's Witnesses have decided to expand the lawsuit. So what's happening? It says last year it became known that Jehovah's Witnesses are going to sue the state. When I read JW.org, there's nothing about lawsuits, nothing about a religion suing the state. This is ludicrous. It says it happens after they lost the state subsidy. See, there's all kinds of money going out to these guys, all these religions, as well as the registration as a religious community, so it was embarrassing to them. And it says when the trial takes place in January, they will demand that the state aid be paid in arrears with interest. Can you imagine? With interest. They will also keep their registration as a religious community. And Vartland had previously written this. So the subsidy for the Jehovah's Witnesses is 12,000 members in 2021, amounted to approximately 16 million. So they get 16 million in NOK and Norwegian money for 12,000 members. That's some pretty good subsidies. So if we think they're getting that all over the world or something like that, all kinds of countries are doing this, there's a lot of money funneled into the government from the taxpayers to these religious communities. And most of the people that live now are, over half, are atheists. People don't believe in religion anymore. So I can see that this is changing these thoughts. But this is what's happening today. So it says recently the state administrator in Oslo and Viken decided to deny the religious community grants for this year and last year as well. Vartland wrote last week. Now they've expanded the lawsuit. As previously mentioned, we disagree with the discriminatory decisions by the state administrator, and therefore we have included legitimate demands. This is Jehovah's Witnesses talking. That we should also receive state aid for 2022-2023 in the upcoming court case in January. Writes Fabian Fawn, spokesman for the Jehovah's Witness branch office in Scandinavian, in an email. And so they sent this email right to Vartland. So it's there. This is how they talk. This is how this religious group wants money. That's why I think they're going broke. It says here the amount for 2022 amounts to approximately 17 million, for 2023 18 million, and he has previously mentioned to the newspaper. Altogether, the subsidy for the 3 years amounts to NOK 51 million. And what the exact amounts will be with interest must possibly be clarified when the case has been tried in court, says Fawn, and that's a Jehovah's Witness lawyer. So prevents free withdrawal. The facts that Jehovah's Witnesses have been denied state subsidies for the past 2 years is closely linked to the reason why they were denied subsidies in 2021. Two factors led to the state administrator's conclusion at the time. Number one, the state administrator believed that Jehovah's Witnesses were preventing free expression for their members. And that is absolutely right. We get shunned as soon as we speak out, and the shunning is for life. Number two, the state administrator believes that Jehovah's Witnesses exclusion rules for underage Baptist entails the exercise of negative social control over children in the religious community. Exactly. Even to the point with this blood doctrine. Parents denying their children medical procedures, infants, toddlers. And Japan's looking at this as abuse to infants. So definitely Norway is within their right, and what they are doing is just. So it goes on to say both parts are in breach of a number of statutory sections, according to the Statsforvalteren, who, among other things, has referred to the Section 6 in the first part of this. Now, it goes on to say, if a faith or belief community or individuals acting on behalf of the community use violence or coercion, make threats, violate children's rights, violate statutory prohibitions on discrimination, or in other ways seriously violate the rights and freedoms of others, the community may be denied a grant or grants may be shortened. And everything that was said in that paragraph is what happens at the Kingdom Hall. Now, it goes on to say, in the decision where Jehovah's Witnesses are denied state subsidies for 2022, the state administrator points out that the religious community has not provided new information, that they plan to have implemented measures to rectify the condition that led to the denial of the subsidies for 2021 in the first place. So what they're saying there is that the Jehovah's Witness community has not provided any proof of even a plan to fix their problem. Remember, they've stood up and said, we have no reason to apologize and we're not going to change. That's what they've said in public. Now, the paper goes on to say, thus, they do not meet the conditions for receiving state subsidies for the last year, according to the rejection letter. Now, this goes on to say, I think they were registered, and we'll read on here. Okay, so this is the last part. I think they were registered is the Jehovah's Witness claim. So it says here, the Jehovah's Witnesses claim for a grant for 2023 is rejected with reference to the fact that only registered faith and belief communities can claim a grant from the state. Jehovah's Witnesses lost their registration last December. The religious community, for its part, has defended the claim for 2023 by showing that they were registered as a religious community at the time they applied for the support. At the time when the applicants were sent as well as today, we believe that Jehovah's Witnesses meet all the requirements to be a registered religious community entitled to state support, as they have been for the last 30 years and on an equal footing with almost 700 other religious communities in Norway, stated von der Lark last week. He added, this is the reason why we applied for state aid for 2022 and 2023, and is also the question will be dealt with by the district court in the upcoming trial in January. The state administrator's decision on refusal of state subsidies can be appealed to the Ministry of Children and Families, Fawn stated last week, that the religious community has not yet made a decision on what to do next. With the religious community's decision to extend the lawsuit, it will not be relevant to appeal the decisions. Since we have decided to include the requirements for the state aid for 2022-2023 in the court case of January, it will not be relevant to file a complaint with the ministry, says Fawn Televartele. So the Jehovah's Witnesses are a religious denomination. They teach the Bible is written by God, Jehovah, with the help of writers who are under God's direction. Therefore, the Bible is understood as God's infallible and reliable word and the only necessary guide in all matters of life. Jehovah's Witnesses were established in the United States in the 1870s, initially as the Bible study group, and eventually it developed into a religious community under the leadership of Charles Taze Russell, 1852 to 1916. And according to their own statistics in 2022, Jehovah's Witnesses were active in 239 countries and had around 8.5 million members, active preachers, distributing among 117,960 congregations. Children and others who are not active preachers come in addition. So this is the end of article, and thanks to Caroline Tenium Gilly. And she's a journalist in the religious department in the Vartland. So, okay, well, that brings an end to this article. I guess the big question is, in January, will Jehovah's Witnesses win this lawsuit? Will the government throw in the towel? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now.